is the track for security and AI, or formerly known as AI for next gen protection. We have a very exciting agenda today. A lot of good expert speakers. We'll talk about all of them as I and Monica will introduce them to you as they come on stage. But let me get started by introducing myself. I am Ashish Agarwal. I am the co-founder and CTO of a Series C startup right here in Bay Area. It's called Productive, just the English word productive. And this is my co-chair, Monica Bajaj from Okta. She's the VP of Engineering at Okta. When Monica and I were talking to Ty about which track to pick and what is an exciting theme, naturally security came first to mind. In this day and age, the way I think about it is technology has evolved for forever, right? I mean, I even go back to things like the Iron Age and Bronze Age, right? We discovered, well, I guess iron and then alloy bronze, and those were used. They ushered an entire age for humans to do wonderful things with that technology. AI, or the age of computing, right, has been going on in my lifetime. And within that, there is a sub-age of AI, as you all know, that has been ushered very, very recently. Now, what AI has done has enabled, as a tool, it has enabled a lot of different things, right? We at Productive are using AI, for example, to optimize the spend for procurement or for software that's being used by our customers. Okta is using AI in different ways. Monica will talk about that. AI is also being used now, as we all know, to attack and to defend, right, in terms of security. Anytime there is technology, it's used for weapons and shields, from iron to bronze to what have you, to missiles, right? We saw that missiles are being used to attack, and then missiles are being used to defend against the attacking missiles. Similarly, AI is being used to both attack and defend. I guess we are more interested in this forum about the defense part. So we'll focus this track on how we can and should be using this new tool, this new technology, to defend ourselves from the advanced attacks that it has enabled. Again, a lot of good things to come to speak about how cloud, everything is in cloud right now. So how this technology can be used to protect our information, our resources in the cloud. But before we go there, let me introduce Monica. Monica.
Thank you, Ashish. I'm so glad to be here. I hope everybody is having a good time. And I was so inspired this morning with the whole keynote. I hope you all are, and full of energy here to listen to our awesome speakers. I am Monica Bajaj, as Ashish introduced. I lead the engineering portfolio at Okta in the Customer Identity Cloud, and I manage developer experience and fine-grained authorization. Security is front and center for us. We are an identity company. So as you can see, the cloud, the security, AI, it is at its convergence at this point in time. And we want to make sure that we use AI more to detect these threats, right? And more to protect our infrastructure as well. Cloud has also evolved over the years, and it is becoming more and more secure, but nevertheless, the cyber threats are also increasing. So it's really important that we think through this process and make sure that AI is being headed in the right direction. And right now, I see more AI on the automation side, which is great, but predictive analytics is really, really important, and leveraging AI for that purpose is extremely important. So we are going to hear from many of our speakers today. And with that, I'm going to introduce our first, opening keynote, Meerah Rajavel. Please come on stage. So, a brief introduction about Meerah. Meerah is a Chief Information Officer at Palo Alto Networks, where she leads global information technology functions, driving a comprehensive strategy to scale and rapidly deliver innovative solutions for our worldwide teams. Prior to joining Palo Alto Networks in 2022, Meerah was a CIO at Citrix and held past leadership roles at McAfee, ForcePoint, Cisco, and Infosys. Meerah deeply understands the IT challenges across the industry among organizations of all sizes. So glad to have you here, Meerah.
Thank you.
Let's hear from Meerah today about how we are navigating from code to cloud in today's era and keeping AI and security as the first principles. Over to you, Meerah.
Thank you, Monica. I was quite inspired when I see the title for TiEcon, AI Ubiquitous. I think we all can relate to it. We're just talking in the back. What is the most common theme for the funding? What's the most common phrase if you look at any of the earning calls? How many times AI is used, your stock is accordingly having a fluctuation. So there's a huge thing about AI. But today what I'm going to talk about is a little bit more around there is a couple of multiple forces that are coming through. I remember very clearly, it was 2009, and I was in product engineering, transitioning, and having like a dual role between IT and product. At that point in time, when somebody says we are in the cloud, basically it's virtualization, right? AWS was just coming out, and we were talking about AWS being our burst capacity only, and how much a human has to sit between. And we were even thinking, it cannot be burst because you need to have a human to figure out how you are going to shift the cloud from your data center virtual machines into a cloud virtual machine. Just show me hand, whether you're in an enterprise or you're a startup serving enterprises, how many of your customers today call themselves as they are a hybrid multi-cloud? Everybody, right? So here are some stats. The cloud has changed the app economy completely. Today, 500 million plus apps that are cloud-based. 33 million developers are working on cloud-oriented, and 90% of the enterprises claim that they are a multi-cloud. Even 5 years back, you can talk to a CIO, they'll say, we are committed to a single cloud strategy. We are either the Microsoft badge or a Google badge, or it is an Amazon badge. What they didn't think about is you have something called M&A. The M&A doesn't follow that rule. The company that you're acquiring will say, I am not moving. If I move, I'm not giving the revenue. The CEO will tell the CIO, figure out how to use both the clouds. That's a reality, right? So what happened with this? There are some more things. The complexity also yields to what is happening with security. If you look at today, the cost of supply chain attack in just 2023 alone is $50 billion. $50 billion. And I'll tell you why the cost has gone exponentially. Even 4 years back, I've been in the cybersecurity industry for a while. Even 4 years back, the cost of an attack was in hundred thousands. All of a sudden, now you can see it's about 4.45 million, 4.5 million, let's call it. The reason is, it's actually what happens from the time of recon to the time of extraction used to be in somewhere in days. And if you look at a security operations center, even today, their resolution time is 145 hours. This was the latest data. 145 hours for a security operation person to take an incident, to analyze and make sure the MTTR, you can call it. Today, leveraging AI, leveraging other techniques, the average time from recon to exfil is 15 minutes. While you're taking 145 hours to figure out what's going on, there is more than 145 people can come into your environment and take the things that you need to take. And the other biggest thing is also the shift. It used to be for challenging intellectually, cybersecurity was for a large reason, or it's nation state. But today, if you look at it, it's a huge economical driver. Ransomware is where you get the most money. I mean, the adversaries get the most money, and you're not even getting disclosed. You can't even tell that I paid, and it's every government is trying to figure out how you're going to disclose to me, putting exec orders after exec orders. But 1 in 2 of the organizations that are getting attacked is having some kind of a breach. Not everybody has a huge breach, but there is some kind of a breach that's happening. And if somebody claims that we have never been breached, I'll tell you that they don't know that they have been breached. We talked about it. So why is it difficult? When Monica asked me, hey, what's your topic? I said, protecting code to cloud with the AI. She said, oh, is it code in cloud? I said, no. Code to cloud in AI, with the AI. What I mean by code to cloud, when we move to cloud, there's one big, I would say, tectonic shift happened. Until cloud came, infrastructure is a bunch of system administrators who sit and who handcraft everything. Everything is handcrafted. Cloud completely shifted infrastructure as a code. And it actually completely shifted the economics. That's why the economics of application development has changed completely as well. Now everything is a code. So when you think about it, hey, how I'm going to protect myself, it's not about how you're protecting when you're running something. It's about how you're starting your journey, and the journey starts with some kind of a code. So you really need to think about, if you think about your valuable workload, you have 3 things. You're developing something, that's your code. You have your infrastructure, and then you're actually having a runtime elements. The challenge today is an average, people use about 31 different tools to protect this supply chain. 31 different tools. And most of them are looked at it as a feature for a specific vulnerability or a specific attack vector. And it's left to the security operations team or an infrastructure operations team how well they can cobble all of this together. And an average is about 12 vendors in this 30-ish tools. And you know that how, as an industry, we are so cooperative. I will open up every one of my product to the other people to integrate with. That's a pain IT lives with every day, because the products don't work with each other, because they're competitors. They don't want to enhance the feature of another product with their product. So now you build bridges between each of these 14 different vendors to figure out what's going on. Of course, not everybody has the strength to build that. And that's what happens, even though you may have been thinking about, oh, I have a great software composition analysis. I have a great secret scanning. I have a great cloud posture management. But when all of them are not coming together, this is what IT teams deal with. This is industry average of 2023. Just in the code area alone, an average you see about 1,000 alerts a day. 1,000 alerts a day. The infrastructure is about 5,000 we see. And that leads to, when you're running your workload, there is averages about 70 exploitable attack paths. I'm talking about averages. So if you're really super sloppy, you're somewhere in the high end of the spectrum. If you're good, probably you're in the low end of the spectrum. But this is a reality. And now what happens is, the people who are running these operations need to figure out, it's like needle in the haystack. You're going on okay, let me go and do a, goose chase to see what I need to do to figure out. How do we solve this? More and more, security problem has become a data problem. And data is the food for AI. That's why AI is going to be such a great, great tool for solving security problems. And if you think about it, if there is a way I can solve this problem by really having a significant level of getting to the right focus at the right time, and leveraging the power of AI for automation, because really eliminating the human friction out of this, or put AI as an assist to the human. I'm not saying AI is going to take out the human. There are many times you need to have the human to make the final judgment call. But if you provide the right kind of assist, that can change the game. So let's talk about a real scenario. This is actually not a made-up scenario. This is a real scenario of enterprise 50 customers average. So if you kind of think about, I talked about 1,000, like when you start from the code, there's roughly about 1,000 vulnerabilities we are able to detect. Out of the 1,000, many times, not all vulnerability is relevant to everybody. What we have seen is, out of the 1,000, on an average, only 10 of them becomes relevant to it's not always the same 10. Depending on your infrastructure, depending on how your business runs, we see average of 10 of them is relevant to them. And if you can focus on that 10, let's say you can address 80%, because now you're not dealing with 1,000, you're dealing with 10. Out of 10, I should be good enough to take at least 8 out of the 10. If I take 8 out of the 10, let's say I'm slipping 2 more through. On the infrastructure has actually, I would say, because cloud has been around for a long time, probably I would say infrastructure is where the variations are getting smaller and smaller. When you talk about containers, when you talk about serverless, when you talk about servers, more and more good blueprints are there, more and more good practices are there. So when you think about infrastructure, even though the numbers are large, if you're following good hygiene, out of the 5,000, we see only 2 most of the time. It's unintentional exposure. Some, mostly it is human error. Somebody didn't follow the process, right? Let's say 2 of them are slipped through. Out of the 2 plus 2, let's say you can tackle 75%, 3. That leads to 1 attack path. And that 1 attack path can be many times. Either it is auto-resolution or it's a human-oriented resolution. So what does it require for us to achieve this? For us to achieve this is the reason that we say that there's a couple of things you need to think about this. It is the context is important. It is the ability to visualize is important. It is the ability to make decision and action is so important. So if you think about it, there are 5 things that kind of, hold them. It is visibility. It is how you're going to have a remediation, how you're going to have a context, and then really, a lot of this is speed, right? If you're going to have in 15 minutes, you need to take care of this. You can't doesn't matter, even if you put 1,000 human, you can't do it at that speed. And in fact, it is actually more time to have 1,000 people to collaborate or even 10 people to collaborate than something that you can do it through AI as an assist. So AI is becoming such an important thing in this case. So how does this intelligence, I call it the code to cloud intelligence. Typically, you still have to leverage, or you have to look at those vulnerable points. Whether it is your secret scanning, or it is your software composition analysis, given the amount of open source we all use, it's super important that you have those points of vulnerabilities in your end-to-end supply chain, having the right kind of capabilities to identify the vulnerabilities are coming. What you really want to make sure is that's actually getting processed with the context. And if you see the little, whatever I call the blinking, nicely going around circle, that's the power of AI. That's the power of AI, that you really want to take those alerts and make it contextual to what is relevant for you and come out with the paths. And then there are 3 ways you can solve it. 1, typically most of the vendors will provide you with the playbooks. They'll tell you, hey, if there is an attack path like this, here is how you stop. And most of the security products, that's what they promise. We can stop 0-day attack. That's nothing but that top one, stop attack. The second is stopping is not enough. You don't want to happen that again. So you wanted to fix it, right? The fixing could be human, or it could be through a machine. Especially with Gen AI, many times the fixing is you're probably executing a script, and the script can be generated through, if you have got really trained your code generation AI well, that can also, and most of the vendors are also providing that today, right? So it could be fix it now, or it could be go and fix the code. So you saw that the more you fix the issues up front, the better you're going to be in eliminating. This is simple. Many developers and engineers here, when you have a vulnerability in your blueprint, and if you replicate that vulnerability of your containers or your servers, by the time it gets into your runtime, that one vulnerability will just explode into thousands of vulnerabilities. Now, all of a sudden, any security product you use is going to be throwing up like all kind of these vulnerabilities, and it becomes almost impossible. It's better to go back and fix your blueprint than trying to patch all your 1,000 machines that are running, and that's where the security team and IT team doesn't want to talk to each other. Right? We don't want to do that. So what is the benefits of it? Some of the benefits is, the savings from a breach can potentially be preserved if you're taking an end-to-end approach and really shifting your security more to the left, I call it, go to the cloud side, a significant amount of saving to your business. And more so, I would say it's a productivity game also for your employees, right? I mean, the more you can shift it, the more you integrate. And my other favorite analogy with security is, I hope there are many, this is an Indian crowd, not many Indian cooking men, but I don't want to make that call. I don't want to make the call. I think you all cook well. How many of you agree that you can use oil as a seasoning in the cooking in the end? Nobody. None of us, especially in Indian cooking, it stinks. Maybe in the Italian, it's okay. But security, a lot of time we treat it like oil in the cooking, especially in an Indian food. Like we just put it in the top. Now the security team need to sign off. Just make sure these are done. Guess what? It never solves the purpose. It has to be oil in the cooking. That means it has to be integrated from the get-go. You may even start with the oil. Most of the time, that's how we do. You start with an oil. You start with what is the security objectives of your application. If you don't have that clarity, you're never going to be able to get that outcome that you need to get. Right? So keeping that perspective, it really saves a lot of productivity for your DevOps and SecOps people and your engineers as well, because they are not now fixing all these vulnerabilities. So in the end, because it's already integrated, last but not least, a platformization approach also will give you a 30% roughly. That's what we are seeing as a total cost of ownership saving, because you don't have to be the integration. You're actually anchoring on a platform that can provide you with these capabilities. So just to summarize, the 3 key takeaways, really think about shifting to the left. Think about engaging your developers early and often. And I normally put my engineering team and the security team together in the same room. Typically, our architecture sessions or the security architect is sitting at the same footing with my application architect and my infrastructure architect and with my data architect as well, because data it is the fuel of AI. And your data is controlled by your process. Many times we don't recognize. We say, oh, the data is bad quality. Who produced the bad quality data? Because your business processes produce the bad quality data. It's like a 4-legged table. If you have one leg missing, it's going to be wobbly. So put them in the room together. You'll have much greater outcomes. Last but not least, embrace the platform approach, because platform is important, especially with the AI. The quality of data determines. And the quality of data, you can only get it when you're having end-to-end thinking with a context that can be carried. With that, I'll wrap it up. Thank you.